Can y'all... Oh, wait, I wore this shirt last time, didn't I? Let me fix that. Yes, I am this lame. Now, can y'all do me a favor? Stop suggesting Kitsusaga. It's gone. Don't any of y'all use Google? Area seems oddly fond of offloading their newer games as a consolation for shutting down their older ones. When Pie Story was shut down, they offered a bonus to players who signed up for Domo instead. Domo is not Pie Story, not even close. It'd be like if they stopped making Mountain Dew and someone tells you, "Oh, sorry about that, here, have a Coke instead." It might be a carbonated drink, but it sure as hell ain't the same thing. My reason for mentioning that at all lies in my next game. Since shutting down Kitsusaga, a lot of people have considered the game I'm about to talk about as its official replacement. This is the MMO Grinder, and it's time to look at Eden Eternal. If there's one thing in common with all my past MMO Grinder episodes, is that the games are old. Sure, in MMO terms, it's better to have some age behind it, but others might wonder why I'm looking at games that have been around for so long. Couldn't they hear about those games anywhere? So what about something more recent? Well, thankfully, Eden Eternal is just that. Developed by X-Legend and published in North America by Area Games, it was first released in China as Finding Neverland Online in late 2010, and was changed over here to Eden Eternal, for obvious reasons, when it arrived only a few months ago in June 2011. The story of Eden Eternal involves a great war that tore the land and its countries apart until a group suddenly rose up against the evil forces behind it, before vanishing and being sealed into crystals. The sealed warriors are once again starting to awaken, and now without their memories, are called back to fight against the marauding forces once again, and lead the peoples of the lands into a world of endless harmony known as Eden Eternal. Or I guess Neverland in the Chinese version, so glad they changed that. In any case, let's move on. It's been a short while since I've looked at a cutesy-style game, so I think this shouldn't overload it. First off, the animations and graphics in the game are gorgeous. The game is done entirely in a 3D cel-shaded style with a very wistful watercolor look to them. The game runs pretty smoothly, even on its highest settings and even in windowed mode. The art design of the game is heavily influenced by anime, and I'm not just talking about the character designs. Let's just try the dance emote, shall we? It seems like a slightly jarring tonal shift, especially in the low-res faces you make, which brings me to an odd bug I've found, where your character's face will get stuck like that after performing emotes. What do you know? Every mom with a toddler was right. Luckily, using your home point spell or a magician's teleport usually removes the effect. Other issues I have with the graphics are the disorienting critical effect, where the entire screen shakes when you hit with a critical, making playing critical-based classes like Thieves an earthquakey nightmare. There's also a very jarring day-night transition, and that's practically instant. You'll be running around and wondering why your monitor's colors got all messed up, only to realize it's apparently a new time of the day. Regardless, there's a lot of color and smoothness to these graphics, and it can be just great to sit back and look at them sometimes. The music of this game is what I'd call standard MMO fare for this type of cutesy MMO. It's very fitting of the upbeat nature of this game, ranging from calming to melodic to, in some cases, sickeningly saccharine, but it's all very reminiscent of how cartoony this game is. However, it's not very obtrusive, as much like other 3D MMOs, the music plays for about a minute or so and just stops, not starting up again for about another minute, leaving you with long pauses of nothing. When the game becomes more grindy, you might want to provide your own music. The game's cartoony nature is also highly reflected in the sound. It's almost the polar opposite of Lotro, wherein these sword slashes and hammer blows are met with bonks and whistle noises. It reminds me a lot of the sounds used in Luna, but I don't find Eden's sounds nearly as annoying or noisy as I did Luna's. In other words, if the cutesy graphics don't turn you away, then the overly cutesy sounds might. But let's look into gameplay and see exactly why this shouldn't deter you from playing. Logging in brings you to 3 server choices: Aquamarine, Emerald, and Garnet. Population seems to be in order of listing, but there seems to be a good amount of people on each. After picking a server, choose a channel, and then you can head to the character creation screen. You may only create 3 characters per server, but trust me, that won't be a problem. Once inside, you can choose between a male or female human, a mouse race called Zumi, and a frog race called Honoron. There is talk of other races being added to the game later. You may also pick from a limited selection of hairstyles, colors, and faces, but some races have less available options to customize. You can also preview what your character would look like as every high-level class. Difference between races are in the character look, their specialty weapon with certain classes, and a slight difference in their stats and where they start the game. Once you decide on a look, you can choose to start as a warrior or a magician. Do not worry too much about this choice, as there is a reason I'll explain shortly. You can also pick a character trait which will give you bonuses to certain stats, which will help you in deciding what kind of character you want to create. If you're hoping to cause a lot of damage, pick something that grants you a bonus to critical hits or attack power. If you're hoping to be a more efficient healer, pick something that grants you more intellect, wisdom, or healing power. When controlling your character, use the WASD keys to move, and the mouse to interact with skills and objects. You may also press the spacebar to jump, but you'll find out soon that it's completely pointless, as you can't jump over obstacles, and map movement is pretty restricted. You can't even swim, climb hills, or even slide down slopes, and you'll have to stay within the paths the game intended. Unlike a lot of MMOs, you can only activate the action bar skills by right-clicking on them, as left-clicking will pick up the skill and you may accidentally toss away something instead of using it. You can also lock the action bar buttons to prevent that by clicking the lock icon on the bar itself. What's nice is that most everything on the interface can be moved around, so you're not stuck with the default layout, and it can be set up the way you like it. When you start out gathering quests, one thing you might notice is that the quest tracker has an auto-route feature where the game will automatically take control of your character and guide you to the enemy field or NPC that you need for a specific quest. There are times this won't work, however, as some quests may take place on a separate map, where the game just can't calculate the twists and turns of that map, forcing you to move out of a certain area before it will work. Sometimes you'll be forced to click on an item to find the path to the area you'll need, and the item will be used automatically. The map also features coordinates that will come in handy, especially for the treasure maps you'll find later in the game. The game's loot system is drop-based, but instead of looting corpses, the items will merely drop on the map as the enemy vanishes, and you'll have to left-click on the items to retrieve them. Purple bags with a Q are quest items, small boxes are usually use items or small collectibles, and treasure chests usually denote a weapon or equipment piece, with the rarity of the item inside represented by how shiny the treasure box is. There are also small bits of treasure boxes or urns scattered in the maps that may contain loot. Luckily, money is granted instantly along with your experience. You can basically transform the loot system to an automatic one by obtaining the pet this game gives you early on in the game. This pet acts as a non-combat pet to start, only picking up items as they drop, but can be made to be a small support attacker if you complete a quest at level 25. You can obtain this pet from a quest once you reach level 5, and reaching level 5 will let you open the crystal in your inventory that will contain items for starting out, similar to Luna and Lotro. Despite how simple it is to get to level 5, it's at that level where you'll fully experience what this game's main draw is. Once you reach level 5, the very first thing you'll notice is that the screen turns gray and the words Cleric Acquired appear on screen. Yes, in this game you can not only unlock classes, but you can become any class you wish at nearly any time in the game. Leveling up classes grants you abilities with those classes within the class category, and even certificates, which are equipable bonus traits that can carry over between your classes. There are 5 separate categories of classes: defense, melee damage, range damage, healer, and magic damage. Each group contains 3 classes that can be obtained by leveling up your character or specific classes. Simply hit K to open your class screen and click on Class Roster to see the list of classes that you've unlocked, and click Transform to become that class. You can only do this if you're not in combat. Once you switch, you'll have to wait 20 seconds before you can choose a different one. In this screen, you can upgrade the class type skills with each level called Regular Skills, and the specific class skills called, well, Class Skills. You can also upgrade a talent tree for each class with the knowledge points you gain with each class level up. You'll notice that you have 2 experience bars in the game, one for your class and one for your character. Your character experience affects your stats and class category level, and class XP only affects the class you're currently playing as. XP gained from quests only affects your character XP, while XP gained from enemy kills raises both your character XP and class XP, but you gain a lot more class XP from enemy kills than you would character XP. Your class level cannot exceed the level of your character, so if you've maxed out your cleric class at level 11, and your character level is 11, any XP gained to your class is wasted, unless you change out to an underleveled class. When starting out, you'll be filling up your class levels faster than you'll know what to do with, but later on, even your most used class will have a tough time keeping up with your character level. You'll unlock more and more classes as you level up, and some classes cannot be accessed unless you've reached a certain level in another class. The main grind in the game involves keeping up with your class levels, as character levels go by pretty fast. I spent only an afternoon on the game and managed to reach level 20, but it does slow significantly at higher levels. It's better to focus only on a few classes when starting out, as trying to level everything at once gets pretty expensive to train the regular skills of each category. The game contains only 3 types of armor: cloth, light, and heavy, each exclusively equipable by certain classes. To keep with a constant class changing, you can equip 3 sets at once, but only the set applicable to your current class will be technically worn. It's another convenient feature, hampered only by the fact that you must become a class capable of wearing that certain armor piece before you can equip it, and that it does not apply to weapons, although it is interesting that any class can equip any weapon in the game. Like many WoW clone MMOs, you must repair your weapons and armor at the appropriate NPCs, in this case the weapon or armor merchant, or you can use the repair hammers found in the cash shop, or given you as a bonus for reaching a certain level. There are scrolls you can find to use and upgrade your weapons and armor, but they cost money to use and you run the risk of destroying your item when upgrading to higher levels. Another interesting thing about the armor is that its appearance changes with your class, not with what you have equipped. You can only customize it with colored dyes or choosing different outfits that you unlock with higher class levels. There are also cash shop outfits if that's really your thing. I can't help but feel this game is trying desperately to be WoW. Not in the case like Runes of Magic, where the settings and graphics are similar, but in the skills and general quirks about the game. Oh hi stealth, oh hi charge, oh hi teleport, oh hi maintenance on Tuesday. Speaking of WoW-like features, you can map a home point with these Soul Guardians around the map, and using the Soul Guide skill to return to them every 10 minutes. Mages also get a skill early on that lets them perform this task at any time and will actually teleport the entire party. Soul Guardians are also where your character will return to upon death. Death in this game is pretty simplistic, giving you an option to res in the area, res at the Soul Guardian, wait to be revived, or use a cash shop item to revive yourself if you have any. There's a slight character experience penalty every time you revive, though. Early on in the game is pretty easy, but it gets tougher as you get up in levels, mostly due to the insanely fast respawn rate. There's a good chance an enemy you just killed will respawn even before its corpse fades away, and in areas where you're surrounded by aggressive enemies, you might get overwhelmed pretty quickly. There are a few types of quests in this game, mainly story quests and repeatable quests. Story quests are either given by NPCs or found in books that vendors sell. These will give you the biggest boosts in character XP as well as the better equipment pieces, while repeatable quests are only good for upping your cash level on the side and offer little bonuses otherwise. They're just there to help the grind along. There's a lot of times where story quests and repeatable quests overlap in their goals, so try to stack them up to get the best amount of XP with the least amount of effort. Later in the game, the amount of enemies required to complete the quests increased dramatically in slowing the pace of the game, but it's not completely far-fetched. There are a few ways to get around the map. The fastest is using the warp portals usually placed in every town. Like Griffins in World of Warcraft, you pay a fee to be transported to that area, but thankfully this method is instantaneous. There are mounts in the game, obtainable when you reach level 30. The basic mounts are in the form of alpacas. Alpacas! Yes, alpacas. These basic mounts don't offer too much an increase of speed, but are nice to have. There are...
Aw, look, they have little shamrocks on their heads.
There are other rarer forms of these mounts that increase your speed a bit more. Fun fact, these alpacas are the game's official mascot, and are actually a Chinese meme known as the Grass Mud Horse, or Cao Ni Ma. Look it up if you're in the mood for a surprising laugh. One last thing I want to touch upon is achievements and titles. While I don't see a point to the achievements as of yet, you can obtain them by reaching certain class levels or killing certain elite enemies. Titles are obtained by quests, and equipping them grants stat bonuses to your character, so make sure to equip the one that benefits you the best when you obtain it. This game has references abound as well, but it's not nearly as obvious or desperate as Luna was with these. Some are actually pretty subtle, and I appreciate that. This is a very typical fantasy MMO community. It's got an equal share of jerks and nice people, givers and beggars, and you really need to give it a chance to find the right people for you. This game also reminded me why I hate certain MMO players, specifically the know-it-all who has an answer for everything, despite in reality being quite terrible at the game, and unable to figure out the most basic orders, acting like it's somehow my fault that you can't heal for shit and can't figure out how fucking tanking works. There's nothing I hate more than a player who thinks they need to tell people how to play a game despite only being a dozen levels into it, or bragging about their worthless accomplishments.
Oh, you just got to that part? I got there at level 10. You need to max out all your classes before you level up.
Shut the fuck up! With that out of the way, let's talk about instance dungeons. Much like WoW, instance dungeons are scattered throughout the land and separated by a portal. Each dungeon contains a group of elite enemies eventually leading to a boss, and they are extremely hard. If you're not following directions and everyone isn't on the same page, you are going to wipe constantly. These dungeons require a lot of strategy, and your typical setup of a tank, healer, and damage class. Luckily, the game imparts a bit of strategy with the boss fights and world map elites in the breakpoint system. Each boss or world map elite has a couple weaknesses that you can exploit. For example, an enemy might be weak to fire magic or slash attacks, so hitting them with a sword or other bladed weapon, or switching to a magic damage class and pelting them with fire spells, will cause their BP meter to deplete, and once empty, the enemy will be stunned for a while and weakened. You'll gain better loot for breaking a monster before you kill it. Dungeons usually can include only 2 other members, and if you wish to invite someone, click on the character and then right-click on their portrait and choose the Invite to Party option. Getting others to join you can be a bit of a chore, but luckily the game has a system to circumvent that. Outside each dungeon is one of those home point soul guardians, and when talking to them you can purchase bonus quests, and choose the option of a one-player dungeon, where you become powerful enough to go through the dungeon alone, but at the expense of earning any experience or loot. It allows you to finish any quest you have for that dungeon, and obtain the quest rewards without having to worry about waiting for a group to be willing to join you. The system is absolutely ingenious, and I really wish more MMOs would incorporate an option like this. Anyone who's played World of Warcraft probably had a nice pile of Gnomeregan quests in their log, simply because anybody who'd ever set foot in that dungeon never wants to see that shithole again. The dungeons are still no cakewalk in one-player mode, so be sure to have a good amount of potions handy if you want to go it alone. Communication is a bit tough, as while there are multiple channels, the text is very low-res and the color choices are odd, making incoming messages occasionally hard to see. There's also a world channel, which is a personal favorite of spammers and jerks, but it's item-based, and each communication in there requires a world call megaphone, which are granted from the level reward crystals or purchased in the cash shop. The main hub of the community is the city of Avin, which is an absolute nightmare to navigate on Channel 1, so you might want to switch before heading there. You'll find the auction house, the bank, and numerous players willing to trade. Any sales you earn in the auction house are immediately transferred to your mailbox, which is an icon located on your minimap, which is highly convenient. So convenient that spammers like to use it to send you ads for gold-selling sites. There's an early quest that sends you to Avin, and while it's nice for the tour and easy experience, there's really no reason to come back here until level 20 or so. PvP in this game, at first, is limited to the duel system, where people have to mutually agree to fight. It isn't until level 30 that you can participate in arena matches, which I'm sad to say are completely broken. There are no level-restricted matches, and the game does nothing to balance teams, so if you're entering as a level 30, prepare to be annihilated by a team of level 50-plus characters. The community will also need to come together to avoid enemy attacks on the map. While the first couple areas don't have this feature, once you reach the level 20-plus area of Goss Mountains, you'll notice blue crystals all over the map. Occasionally, elite and boss enemies will flock to these crystals, and if they reach them, will turn the crystal red, removing several NPCs from the area. You can attack the crystal to turn it blue again and make the NPCs return, but if elite spots you, it will destroy you unless you are a much higher level or you bring a party along. You will receive a bonus item in the mail for defending the town, however. There's a system in place called couples, where you can choose to confess your love to another player and set yourselves up as a couple. There's little point to this besides buying bonus items that affect you and your partner. Inviting someone to be a significant other is as simple as right-clicking on them, but it does bring about creepy implications, like someone standing in the corner of Avin holding up a sign that reads, "Looking for a boyfriend-free girl." There's a guild system in this game with a few interesting features, like making custom emblems or owning an entire town, as long as they meet the requirements. In order to form a guild, you'll need to be level 20 or higher and have over 50 gold. To purchase a guild town, you'll need to be at least level 30 or higher, be at guild level 3, and have at least 30 members, and have anywhere from 500 to 10,000 gold, depending on the amount of guild towns already on your server. Guilds with towns can also compete in territory wars, but I've unfortunately not experienced one. Guilds rank up by gaining fame, which each member can contribute by performing guild quests purchasable in Avin, and dungeon quests purchased outside of the dungeons. Higher ranks get better perks. Like MapleStory, this game seems to attract a lot of younger players who are either ignorant, idiotic, or just perform outright jerkish behaviors, like parking their characters on the top of NPCs so it's nearly impossible to interact with them. It's not nearly as bad as MapleStory, though, and there are a lot of decent people in this game. It'll become a lot more apparent to you once you get out of those newbie areas. I'll be completely honest here, nothing in the cash shop screams required to me. The shop is filled with niceties and convenience items, but nothing really stands out above the rest. To get to the cash shop, hit I or click the Item Mall button on the lower left. Most purchases are made with area points, which sell for 100 points per dollar, with the lowest possible purchase to be about $3 worth. While usually the most notable items in a cash shop, the mounts in here are cosmetic. They don't go any faster than the existing alpacas and are pretty much just a design choice. There are also other versions of the free pug pet you're given, such as other breeds of dog or even cats. Similar to the Warcraft, heirloom items are weapons and armor sets that are good quality pieces that level up with you to a certain point. If you don't want to worry about gear management, there's an option for you. For the Vayne, there are custom outfits for your characters, as well as dye colors that are unobtainable through in-game. You can also buy a makeover cosmetics kit to redesign your character's look again. I think your best bet would be the XP packs, the portal stones, or the life leaves, just to save you a bit of time or experience loss. I usually don't recommend these kind of items, but really, there's little I see in needing to pay for. Feel free to browse it at your leisure. While I wasn't sure what to expect when I first started out in this game, I found myself pleasantly surprised by it. There are a lot of great innovations that make the game stand out from the WoW clone pack, and I think I'll be returning to this game quite a bit. Look for me on the Emerald server as either Chaos D1 or Not Glenn if you want to say hello. Here's my final rating. If you're looking for a WoW substitute, this game might fit the bill with its similar class structure and playstyle. There's a good amount of features not included in other MMOs. The class system is great and really does its best to set aside the need to create alternate characters. It's also a very easy game at the start and levels pretty quickly, but the challenge is raised at a good pace. If you want to pay for this game, feel free, but there's really nothing that's outright needed to better enjoy it. Like Luna, a lot of starter cash shop items are given to you, but if you want to look different and need to save some time in grinding or travel, feel free to shop at your leisure. With a game that's this cutesy, you have to expect younger players, and this is entirely the case here. Unlike MapleStory though, the ratio of jerks to decent people is about on par with these kinds of MMOs. Of course, if you don't like cute, you probably won't be playing this anyway. While it does start out leveling pretty fast, you can see the grind become apparent as you begin to unlock classes and reach higher levels. If you were hoping to sail through the game from start to finish, I'd steer clear. Next time, I'll be looking at the game that won the Halloween episode poll on my MMO Grinder Facebook page with more than twice the votes, so stay tuned for Hellgate London. Plug time again. I wanted to give a quick shout out to Mega G Wolf, who runs his own shows on his YouTube channel, including a show where he looks at free-to-play games, and not just MMOs. He's given me a couple shoutouts in his videos, so I thought I'd return the favor. Check him out at his channel. In fact, I wonder what he's updated lately. Why, you grass mudhorse.
Okay, and done. Yes, I beat Chaos D1 to uploading a video on Eden Eternal. Right, now to actually get back to the game. Hang on a minute. Who is not Glenn?